history is being made, and it's pretty darn glorious to see the American people rise up like this and take control of their democracy, their republic. If I have to hear the left one more time go on and on about our fragile democracy and how the democracy was going to be ruined if Donald Trump won again, I'm like, what do you think was going down when you couldn't say certain stuff? When you would lose your Twitter account if you talked about the laptop from hell, which turned out to really be Hunter Biden's, but you couldn't say that because the deep state didn't want. I mean, what do you think was actually happening? Our democracy was under threat, but it was from you people, all of you. And yet, you have to listen to this bogus nonsense on Morning Joe. Here's John Meacham, the very liberal historian that is doing his darndest to put Joe Biden in the best light possible. Good luck on that, buddy. You know what? You got a hard job in front of you. Here he is.
This is not a partisan talking point. This is not just a way to hammer away at Donald Trump. To remember what happened on January 6th is an act of remembrance in the purest form. And remembrance in the traditions, Joe, that you and I and so many other people came from, remembrance is not nostalgia. It's an act of agency. You remember things that you either want to emulate or you want to avoid. And we want to avoid ever again having American democracy on the knife's edge.
You know what? I mean, I can agree with that. Yes, I want to avoid ever having American democracy on the knife's edge that it was on, for goodness sakes, for the last 4 years. Where if you were a Republican, if you were a conservative, if you wanted to heck fly the American flag outside your house, you were under threat. You were under attack. You couldn't say go USA without running the risk that maybe the FBI would be on you because gosh darn it, those patriots, especially the ones that go to mass, and don't even talk about the ones that actually go to the mass in Latin, right? I mean, this was crazy. Absolutely crazy for 4 solid years, not to mention the 4 years prior. So finally we're coming out of that. Yeah, hopefully our democracy will never be on that kind of edge. We've built up a pretty darn great republic and we need to keep it that way. And I love seeing that the American people came out as they did in November. They voted in force. They once again defied the polls and all the posters and all the mainstream media that tried to sit there and say, oh, you know what? It's close. It's tied. It wasn't close. It wasn't tied. You know what? He won, and he won by a pretty good amount. When you look at that electoral college, thank you very much. So yeah, I'm in red today for a reason. It is a good day. It is a celebratory. It is a celebratory day. It is a day when we can really honor what we are as a country. So then the question becomes, are they going to honor it? What exactly is going to go down? There's effectively like a roll call, and all the states have to say who they're voting for with their electoral college, and then Kamala Harris, as I said, her final defeat here, has to sign off on this, which I guess for her is going to be rather humiliating. But one congresswoman went on to MSNBC over the weekend just to make sure everybody knew that they weren't going to pull a fast one, that they were just going to do exactly what's to be expected, and they're going to certify these results because we Democrats are so about certifying the results. I actually think it's a really passive-aggressive thing to say, and I'm going to tell you why, but let me play the sound for you first. Here we go.
Gee, former Congresswoman Edwards, should we be shocked that Democrats would accept the results of a free and fair election?
Well, Democrats have always accepted the results of a free and fair election. This election is not going to be any different. In fact, Kamala Harris will be, sort of there in place to do that. And so I fully expect that Democrats are going to vote to certify, as they mostly always have. I'd be shocked. Maybe there would be one or two, but I'd be shocked if that would happen, and that is the way it's supposed to be. I don't even recall the certification dates when I was in Congress. I actually have no recollection, even though I know I was there.
Right, because it was a nothing thing until 4 years ago. One more thing before we go to our break.
Really? Okay, so it's no big deal, and of course they just always accept the results of the election. Yeah, right. I mean, look, I'm going to play for you just a little tiny snippet like, 40 seconds of them not being so magnanimous, not really accepting the results of the election. But they did this over and over again. This is courtesy of the RNC. They made...
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see the president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do. We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
The one thing that Trump is fearful of when it comes to his being president is that finally we will see how illegitimate his victory actually was.
I have an objection.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina. I object because people are horrified.
He's an illegitimate president.
Do you believe Trump is a legitimate president?
What I believe is that there's no question that the outcome of this election was affected by the Russian interference.
There absolutely is a cloud of illegitimacy.
So that legitimacy is in question, yes.
So that was a very tainted election.
Okay, right? So you get the idea. In other words, when they're sitting there on their high horse saying, we would never object, we would never question the results of any election, I'm like, who do you think started it? Thank you very much. Who started it? Hillary Clinton started it way back when. She got licensed to do so from the now deceased Jimmy Carter. They're going to be celebrating his funeral coming up in a couple of days. Jimmy Carter, who was the sort of original election denier and was out there saying, oh, yeah, no, you know what, that's not an illegitimate president because it wasn't a legitimate election. Give me a break. All right, so we'll see how today goes. They're not going to try and pull quite the fast ones that they've done before, I don't think. I don't think that they're going to be able to get away with it because you know what? Americans, they voted already. They are so over this nonsense. They're disgusted by it.